Welcome, everyone. My name is Dawn Mullally. I'm CPAESS's Communication Manager, and we are delighted to have you attend the CPAESS Discovery Seminar Series. CPAESS scientists do everything from explore our ocean depths, to fly into hurricanes and take critical measurements, to our heliophysicists modeling coronal mass ejections, to those who unravel the mysteries of the Arctic. And we want to share this with the public, the NCAR, UCAR community, and our many colleagues at universities across the globe. So just to orient you, we will be using Slido, which is located below the presentation screen, so that you can pose questions to our speaker at any time during the seminar, and they will be answered after the presentation. Today, it is my sincere pleasure to introduce to you today's speaker, Dr. Julie Malmberg, who is a UCAR.CPAESS Senior Learning and Development Officer who works at the U.S. Geological Survey in their water mission area. Dr. Julie Malmberg started working with CPAESS in November of 2021, and prior to joining us, she spent about 10 years working with UCAR Community Programs, Globe and SciEd programs. Her entire career has been focused on science education with the goal of providing high quality, inclusive, and accessible education. She has a PhD in geography and an MS and BS in atmospheric sciences. Today, Julie will delve into what it takes to develop a centralized training program for a staff of 4,000 people, all of them coming from different backgrounds, education levels, job categories, geographic locations, and expectations for training. Her seminar is entitled Building a Comprehensive Workforce Development and Training Program. Please join me in welcoming Julie.
Thank you, Dawn. Good to be here, everybody. Thank you for all for joining. As Dawn mentioned, I'm Julie Malmberg. I use she, her pronouns. And I'm really glad you're here today. Let's go ahead and get started. First, I wanted to give you a little background. So about USGS. USGS was actually founded on March 3rd, 1879. And this is based upon a recommendation from the National Academy of Sciences in 1878. At that time, the original purpose was to classify public lands and examine the geological structure, mineral resources, and products of the national domain. And there was action happening before this, but President Hayes signed the bill hours before the session closed for Congress that year. So much like today, we often have things happening in the very last minute. And there are a couple of things about this. One, it was designated as a fact-finding research organization. And USGS generally has no regulatory responsibility, with the exception of, in the 1950s, decided that USGS would actually have decision-making about water in the Delaware River. But beyond that, its really purpose is to provide information to decision makers, to Congress, and to others who need to know about our land resources and so forth. So I have two pictures here. The one on the top is from 1849, and it is just showing people, working on a map around the Great Salt Lake. And the bottom picture is from 1871, and this one shows people at Yellowstone. And I was trying to imagine what that'd be like to have never seen a picture of Yellowstone or really maybe heard about it that much and come across this geyser and prismatic pools and all other things that Yellowstone has to offer. So some more background about USGS. There are 5 mission areas within USGS. There's core science systems, which is how USGS was really founded. That's focusing on mapping, on what we have, like what's happening in the United States. We also have ecosystems, energy and minerals, natural hazards, and water resources. USGS is divided into 7 regions. These are pictured here. And within that, there are science centers across the entire country and its territories, and there are water science centers and also other kinds of science centers. So USGS is very spread out, as it should be, across the United States. And today we're going to focus mainly on the water resources mission area. Excuse me. So how did this get going? So in 1888, USGS actually started its national stream gauging program on the Rio Grande River. And in 1894, this was something that a lot of money was invested in, and started having watershed recorders installed in stream gauges. Then in the 1960s, there was a lot of monetary investment for research and data interpretation. And today, USGS is the largest provider of water data in the world. And there are 8,500 approximately stream flow and water level sites, and about 1,700 water level sites. And there's near real-time data available online. And this picture here is showing the stream gauge with a rainbow in the background. I mean, it couldn't get prettier than that for looking at the stream gauges. So if you see one of these, this is one of the stream gauges, and many of them have been around for a very long time. So getting even closer to now, in 2018, National Academy of Sciences report, which you've probably heard mentioned before in my earlier slide, provides some recommendations. One of those is in this report called Future Water Priorities for the Nation. And one of those reports was really recommendations was to build a workforce who are ready to take on new water challenges. So this information, plus the retiring workforce and a lot of new water challenges, and then information from feedback like surveys, reviews of water science centers, and also various meetings, plus the pandemic. This led to the acknowledgement that USGS Water really would like to have a comprehensive workforce development and training function. So in 2020, they developed a workforce development and training concept plan. This was created by two people at USGS, Tim McHale and Bill Girdall. And part of that was to work with UCAR to actually start developing that function. And so that brings us to me. And I joined in 2021, as Don mentioned. And my first about year of working with USGS was really focused on figuring out needs, figuring out what people wanted, what was working well, what people wanted to change. So I had a lot of conversations and networking and open hours of time to meet with people. And I talked to, hundreds and hundreds of people across USGS Water about what they thought about training. And so with that information, we actually developed our vision and mission for the function. And the vision here is to build a diverse and inclusive workforce that is capable and prepared to effectively meet the water challenges of the nation. And the mission is to ensure that agency policies, practices, and approach are consistent and lead to the recruitment, retention, and development of a diverse and dynamic workforce at all levels of the organization. So how are we doing that? So one of the things I wanted to mention is this concept. We really wanted to have competencies and training progressions for all career levels. This is going from day one until the last year working with USGS. And within that, there are different categories of what we needed for training. So there's foundational, where everybody needs to know. There's science technical, so it's more of like the how to do the job. And then also leadership and management and various types of leadership as well. There are a lot of people in USGS with different categories, and so leadership has to be curtailed to those different audiences they're working with. And with this plan in mind, we really wanted to get input and buy-in from the stakeholders of this, which is the people working for USGS Water. So we developed a water training team. The purpose of this team, this is from the charter that we wrote, was the water training team is established to make recommendations on a comprehensive workforce development and training function to be managed on their Office of the Associate Director. And on this water training team is about 24, 25 people. And we have representation from headquarters, divisions, labs, regions, and water science centers. So really across the USGS Water enterprise. And those people brought different ideas of what was needed for training and also really worked together to come up with some recommendations. So there are 4 groups. One was focused on metrics and current status. The second was focused on training needs and priorities. The third, governance. And the fourth, policies, practices, and procedures. So each of these groups worked together throughout about an 8-month period to first brainstorm, thinking big ideas, thinking if there were no barriers, limitations, what would they do, like to see happen. The second part was taking those big ideas and putting them into more logically possible ideas. And then the third part was actually creating recommendations. So it's deliverables or documentation on what they recommended. So we ended up coming up with 6 deliverables from this water training team. The first one, they recommended a water training advisory council. And this would be a permanent group that would support the water workforce development training function on what was needed for training. Next was drafting and governance of the function. As I'm sure you can imagine, with a lot of people involved, we want to make sure that the right decision makers are making decisions. Third was a learning and training policy. So really how training is going to work at USGS Water, what we require for that. Things like making sure your slides are accessible, making sure you're thinking about the most up-to-date science and making sure that it's approved by the quality assurance folks. Then we had a way to figure out current metrics to establish a baseline. And that included developing a survey. And so the water training team defines objectives they wanted to hear about in this survey. And then finally, they supported the hiring of our staff for the CPAESS team. So that brings us to the priorities we developed. And I should say a lot of this was happening concurrently with the water training team recommendations. We were working with them and could see what was coming and started working on our 3 priorities for the function. So first was training management plan oversight. Second, training development and updates. And third, development of an early career program. So within training management plan oversight, we really had 4 different areas we wanted to focus on. One of them was we needed staff. Up until about August of 2022, so almost about 9 months, it was just me from CPAESS, working with USGS people, but it was just one person. And I was very busy learning about things. And so I was like, we need a staff. And we also wanted to connect with USGS staff who are going to be really involved in this function as well. Second, we wanted to focus on understanding what currently is there. So the current resources, current thoughts, current ideas. We also wanted to evaluate and assess, so see what people were thinking, see how courses were working, learn about the current thoughts about training and so forth. And then fourth, we wanted to provide vendor training. There are a lot of great trainings that already exist that we could just make accessible to our staff. So getting into a little more detail, this is our team, part of our team. So from August 2022 until actually October 2nd, we've been hiring our team. And so here's the different smaller teams within our larger team. We have a programmatic team. We have Tori Roy, who's our DOI talent specialist. DOI talent is a learning management system that USGS uses, and it is something that is quite cumbersome and had a lot of, secrets to know how to use it. So Tori has been learning all about the learning management system and is quite the expert at it now. She also works with staff at USGS to make sure that our courses are uploaded properly and that we're getting rosters and so forth of courses. We have Ayanna Spear, and they are our credentialing specialists, and they're really focusing on how we can recognize training that's happened. So they've learned a lot about badges and certificates and what we can do to actually, again, acknowledge this hard work and how people can share that work with others. And Ayanna also has been working on evaluation with our evaluator. Then we have Grant. Grant is our program manager, and he is a supervisor, and also he develops processes for vendor trainings and programmatic decision-making. And we have Kelly, who is in charge of purchasing and also meeting and event planning, along with other things. I should say for all these job descriptions, they do so much more than what I'm saying. They're all busy and productive people. Then we have our early career team. We have Amy, who is our early career program coordinator, and she's really been focusing on kind of support we can provide to our early career staff. And we have Marisa, who we share with also with the rest of UCAR Community Programs. And she's been working with Amy to develop, again, these resources and opportunities for early career staff. And then we have our design team. First is Akio, and she's a supervisor for this team. And she also works a lot with strategy for design, accessibility, and process. And then we have Kate, who's our newest member of our team. And she is going to start working on a gap analysis for some of the training, along with developing trainings that have been requested. And we have Liz, who actually designed these slides that you see here. I'm hoping you're noticing the slides. All of them have a water theme to them. And Liz worked with our team to identify really important bodies of water for us and rivers for us, and then design these slides based upon rivers that we acknowledged as being something we thought a lot about. So all of the shapes that are represented here in the rivers are actually real rivers. So if you can identify any of them, you should let me know. And Liz also works with making sure that We have accessibility, and all of our presentations and reports and everything are easily able to be understood and read by our stakeholders. Then we have our cross team, which includes Jen as our program evaluator. She has been spending a lot of time developing an all staff survey, which went out in April, and now is wrapping up the report for that. This was the first all staff survey that's been happened in recent history for USGS Water staff. Previously, supervisors were asked about training needs, but not all staff were not. So we're hoping to make sure we hit all staff every few years to make sure they're meeting their needs and also learning what they're thinking about training. She also created an instructor survey to figure out what instructors need, and then has been working on evaluation for new and updated courses. And then there's me, who right here talking to you, and I work closely with USGS and also lead the efforts of our team. And some things about our team: this team is hired all remotely. We are scattered everywhere from Hawaii to the East Coast, so we have a wide range of locations where we are. And one of the things we've been as a team is really making sure we get to know each other. So we work a lot on connections and collaboration to make sure that people know what's happening, and also, as I mentioned, meet each other. So we have some strategies for doing this. One of those being we have regular one-on-ones. Everybody meets with everybody one-on-one at least quarterly. Oftentimes it's more often. We also have every other week we have an all-team meeting for our entire staff. And the first meeting a month we do updates. And the focus of our updates is to really share things that people are working on and thinking about ways to collaborate and work together and what kind of resources people could offer to other people. We have challenge meetings, our second Mondays of the month, and those ones are focused on solving a problem. So an example could be that we want to develop a newsletter. So what should be included in that newsletter? So working in small groups, we actually created the framework for a newsletter for our training team to go to all USGS Water staff. And another one, we want to have more interactivity in a workshop. So that we spent time brainstorming on that. So those are great times to get outside the box a little bit and think outside your job category to help work together to solve some kind of challenge we have. And then finally, we also have a social time whenever we have a third Monday in the month. So we're actually planning our first one at the end of this month, which I imagine will have a Halloween focus, but we'll see. So a lot of this team growth has also been thinking about processes and how we work together and work with USGS and work with UCAR. That includes having community agreements that we're working on and also clarifying roles and responsibilities so everybody is aware what they need to do and how they work together. Then we work with some USGS staff also. These are the people we work with the most closely, but I should mention this is not a complete list. We have Steph Buck, who's in our Office of Quality Assurance, and she's making sure that our training is reviewed by people in quality assurance to make sure that the proper protocols and procedures are being shared for science data collection. Then we have Mandy Carr, who is our science communication person, and she's working on our newsletter with us. We have Tim McHale as the senior science advisor, who is really championing this function and is our main contact at USGS. And we have Rita Haddad Khalil, who's our program analyst and handles all of our budget and contracting issues. And then we have Karen Knotts, and Karen is our USGS liaison to US Fish and Wildlife Service. We have an interagency agreement between USGS and Fish and Wildlife that USGS Water employees can take any courses offered at the National Conservation Training Center in Shepherdtown, West Virginia. And that is a beautiful location that I was there last week, and it was gorgeous to be there. So that's a great opportunity for our staff to have opportunities for more training that's already been developed and well received. And then along with this, we also have a team of scientists, technicians, and other people who serve our experts on creating training. So one of the things that we're really focusing on is connections with staff. I've already mentioned this, but we really want to make sure that we're talking to USGS Water staff and various platforms. And we recently went to the National Water Data Training Workshop. This took place in August in Phoenix. Yes, it was very hot. And I think it was above 100 most days we were there, close to 110 some days even. And at this meeting, we had a booth, as you can see here. These are 8 of our team members. We had 3 who weren't at this meeting, but it was really good to get 8 of us together. And For the meeting, we had Grant was on the planning committee for the entire meeting, so he was very involved in the entire workshop itself. We also had a listening session with our team where we had the opportunity to present what we were doing and have conversations to hear more about what staff would like to have from the training function. And we also attended sessions to hear about what's happening. It was great to get ideas for case studies, to see what people are thinking about and see people who are needing training. We also have a training portal. USGS uses Microsoft, and so we have a SharePoint site. And we are really focusing to make this a one-stop shop or a centralized learning hub where people can come and learn about training opportunities, training resources. If they have questions about training, that this is the place they can go to learn anything they know about training. And one of the biggest things with understanding current resources is what classes actually exist. So we the team spent a lot of time talking to people, searching for spreadsheets, searching through the learning management system, conversations with people who've been around for decades to learn about all the courses. So this is the first comprehensive course catalog that's been created for USGS Water, at least in a very long time. And we are sharing this so people can know what's available as they think about planning their career paths. And eventually we're going to also include dates that courses are happening. That's the next step. But right now we were really excited to get this course list together. This took months to do just because I was compiling all kinds of different resources. We also wanted to hear how people are thinking about training and what they need. So as I mentioned earlier, we had an all staff survey that went out in April. And now is the report analysis and writing phase. So it's going to be done at the end of the month. And this is just a page out of the report showing what people are thinking about, what they'd like for skill categories and also training course topics. And we had great response to this. We had responses from most water science centers in all the regions. So it was really lovely to get all that kind of input. And we also included open-ended answers that people could type what they were thinking about different parts in, and those led to some fantastic information also. One change we've already made is we learned that people in Hawaii, when they get up in the morning, a class will already have been announced and it's full. So we've already made a change that we're now advertising classes around like 1 p.m. Mountain Time. So they have the opportunity to sign up too. So no more early morning classes that people in Hawaii will miss out on. And we're hoping to use the survey results to really shape how we're offering training and what people are actually wanting to do. Then I also mentioned earlier vendor training. There's a list of the training that we have from external folks. A lot of different categories, including things like contracting needs, feedback, psychological safety, how to communicate, diversity and inclusion, coaching, and so forth. So we're really trying to listen and keep a pulse on what people are needing that already exists to make sure we can keep offering that. This has been an ongoing process where we've been offering trainings regularly that do already exist and maybe customized slightly for our staff, but really pretty off the shelf for these ones. So the next area is training developments and updates. So there are 3 components of this. One is new trainings, second is updated trainings, and then third is career progressions. So first for that new training, we have been working closely with COMET, which is another UCP program, to develop hydrotech bootcamp modules. One of the very identified needs for USGS staff was they have employees coming on, particularly these hydrological technicians or hydrotechs, who there's a little bit of a turnover for those positions. And so they had people coming on and it was taking a while to train them and then they'd leave. So they really wanted to figure out a way to have faster training to help people get acclimated to what they were doing quicker. And so we've been working with a team of people who were all doing this individually anyway to work together to actually create these bootcamp modules. And so COMET has created currently 6 modules. Again, these are all for people in the first 6 months to a year of employment to learn how to do their jobs faster than they did previously. And we have a kind of the intro and also stream gauging done, and we're working on water quality and also groundwater for our next module. So COMET will have those finished in the next 6 months or so. And we're also translating them into Spanish. The World Meteorological Organization was very interested in these, and they learned about them. They wanted to actually have them available for people around the world. So Spanish was a great one that could be used for USGS and also for WMO. And we had a hydrotech boot camp, Train the Trainer. This was hosted by Comment also, and it really focused on best practices for training, particularly in using these modules. And so we had this meeting in Boulder, and about 30 people were there, 30 to 40 people were there, and spent a few days really talking about how to train. And that was great to see people really thinking about what's important in training, how they present things, how they really focus on making that sure that learning is optimized. We also have had working on trainings for local data managers. These are people who really, like it says, manage the data, make sure what people need in the public is there, that's accessible and so forth. Water product management, camera-based monitoring, hardware and software, data loggers, crucial conversations, and also technical trainer again is going to happen. That was a very popular training. We wanted to offer that one again, but for broader than hydrotechs. And then on the right here, this image is showing a screenshot from one of the modules that Comment developed. And these are already live within, like, people in USGS are using them and gotten great feedback from them. So for updated trainings, we've been updating some ones that people have requested so far. So we have water quality principles, introduction to R. And then we're in the queue, we have a few classes or trainings also mentioned there. We currently have a request form that we review quarterly. People can put in what they'd like to update. And then when the water training advisory council comes online fully, we're going to have them help prioritize the next steps for updated trainings. And then I mentioned earlier career progressions. We're starting with these two. Currently, Comet is working on hydrological technician progressions, going from, again, day one till we're no longer a hydrotech. And then we're starting to work on lab scientists career progressions also. Then we have an early career program. I mentioned earlier that one of the things we heard about is people would join USGS and only be there for a couple of years. So we wanted to figure out why that was. And we really wanted to figure out how we can encourage staff to stay at USGS. And this is definitely something a lot of organizations are experiencing also. So we want to focus on training and resources for early career. So two trainings we've had. One was an early career mentor training workshop. There's a picture there on the left showing the people who came for that. That was this past September in Columbus, Ohio. And it was great. It was a few days spent really focusing on how people can mentor with inclusion in mind. So making a welcome environment for everybody. And a lot of the people there have been mentors before, or they were interested in mentoring, but it was really focusing on supporting early career staff. Then we had a water science early career staff development workshop, actually last week in West Virginia. And again, that was a really great opportunity to meet people earlier in their career who wanted to learn more about developing their own skills. So it's focused on things like emotional intelligence, thinking about ethics, goal setting, having communication, and a whole other slew of topics. That was a 3.5-day workshop that was very, very fun. And people got a lot out of it we've gotten from feedback. So that picture on the right is showing a part in emotional intelligence that our staff took part in. Then we have resources like a mentor handbook that our team's working on. The mentor handbook that USGS currently has was developed decades ago. And so Amy and Marisa have spent time really working on to think about inclusion, diversity, and supporting and being welcoming in that handbook, and also updating based upon what people have learned in the past set amount of time. So they're working with the USGS Office of Organizational Development, the Office of Diversity and Equal Opportunity, and also the Water and Mission Area Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Leadership Team. I am really trying hard to spell out all the acronyms here. When I first joined USGS, I heard some sentences spoke that had all acronyms, and I was like, I don't know what you said. And so we have actually an acronym document that's about 19 pages long at this point. But so yeah, I'm trying to avoid any acronyms in this, but we do have, I see one there. But so with these people together, we're really working to develop this handbook led by Amy and Marisa, which will hopefully then be adopted by USGS to use for the mentoring program. They are also looking at locations of minority served institutions as well as community colleges near water science centers, thinking about where people recruit from. So developing connections with these colleges. And then finally looking at community building resources. And this word cloud on the right really shows a lot of the things that were really important with working with early career staff. So having a mentor, spending time with them, setting goals, providing assistance, those kind of things really popped out as being what is valued for early career folks. Okay, so what is next? Again, I should mention, we have been a full team for about 16 days. So, and the rest of the team has joined in the past year. We're just hitting the 1-year anniversary for some of our teammates. So we have made a lot of progress and done a lot of things in this past year as a team. And we have a lot to look forward to coming up. So I mentioned already, we have a Water Training Advisory Council. Currently the charter for that is in review and will hopefully be approved soon. And part of the tasks for that council will be to prioritize new and updated courses and to really help structure what is the highest priority for us to work on. And then we want to develop a strategic plan with that group. So our team is going to create the framework to work with the different stakeholders to make sure we are actually meeting the needs of what people are hoping for this function. We're starting a training newsletter. I mentioned that was a challenge that our team did, and we're working with the science communicator at USGS to get that out and going pretty soon here. We're going to start training office hours. We've had people request, they have questions or just want to chat with our training team and how they can improve their own training or what's coming up or other things about training they wanted to have time to meet us informally. And we're going to continue our work with Fish and Wildlife. I mentioned earlier, we have interagency agreement with the National Conservation Training Center. So we want to develop some courses with them and also hope to continue to offer courses to all of USGS Water staff. And then we're going to continue creating avenues for feedback and input. Every time I meet with somebody at USGS, I learn something new. So it's been wonderful to hear what people are thinking about. Everybody has ideas. And so we really want to keep that communication going. And then we're going to also work on our CPAESS team building. So again, our team's all remote. So we're trying to create opportunities for us to meet in person and also make sure as a remote team that we are structuring our time to get together and talk, whether it's a meet with agenda or just time to catch up and see how each other are doing. And my last slide here is connecting with us. If you have connections or questions later on, I have my email address up here. And I also have a team alias that you can email as well. If you want to know more about anything I mentioned, please feel free to email. And thank you for listening today. And I think I'm going to turn it back over to Brett, see if we have any questions, or to Dawn maybe.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your work with us, Julie. We truly appreciate it. It's really cool. So now we're going to enter our Q&A portion of today's seminar, and I would like to direct everyone's attention to the QR code on your screen. Please enter your questions here for our speaker. And while you are doing that, I would like to invite you all to attend our next seminar on Wednesday, November 15th at 11 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time with CPAESS project scientist Bao Shang, who works at NOAA's Geophysical Fluid Dynamics Laboratory. And he will present on an emerging Asian aerosol dipole pattern reshapes the Asian summer monsoon and exacerbates Northern Hemisphere warming. So please join us for that talk. And it looks like we have a question already, and that is, what future approaches would you like to take to continue your work even further?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Michelle. We have a lot of ideas. A lot of it is shaped by the needs of USGS and water and what we're learning about from our surveys and also conversations. But we would really like to, start thinking about ways for more inclusive efforts, really making sure and doing gap analysis for different career progressions to make sure we're really hitting the needs of all of the staff to go again from very beginning to the end of their careers. And so a lot of that is pretty exciting because we're learning things as we go. And so we get to see what people are wanting and needing. And we're hoping to do our survey, this larger survey every few years to see how things are going. But the biggest part we are is pulling input from that survey to help shape where we're going. Also, our staff have a lot of expertise in different areas in education and training and other areas as well. And so the expertise of our team is helping shape where we're going as well. Thanks for that question.
All right, looks like we have another one. Why is UCAR doing training for USGS?
Yeah, that's a great question. We get that question actually asked a lot. And the reason for that is because UCAR already has an established education and training capabilities. So USGS Water did not have anybody on their team who that was their primary job. Well, they may have had a few people who were doing that, but not their primary job initially. And so USGS recognized that UCAR has this capability and the ability to help out with this. So there is a contract from USGS to UCAR to provide these services. And USGS again recognized that UCAR is doing a lot of great work in the areas of education, training, learning, and workforce development. Thanks for that question too.
Yeah, I'll just add that we, CPAESS in particular we have lots of partnerships with all kinds of federal agencies to just do unique things that perhaps they don't have staff on hand to do. So we're all about supporting the Earth System Science community however we can. Please enter your questions if you guys have any more. Julie, I will just say that I was struck with the many layers of what you guys do. And particularly the thing that I found interesting was kind of the constant evaluations and communications that are part of your whole infrastructure, your team's infrastructure, to pull out from USGS what their needs were, kind of create a baseline on what they wanted, and then with each training session, you're evaluating, hey, did we do this? Like, so that you're continually perfecting things. That's a really nice kind of background insight into this whole educational process.
Thanks for saying that, Dawn. Yeah, that's really important to us, that we want to make sure, again, we're really optimizing learning. That's our main objectives, make sure people feel supported in learning. They have the resources to do their job. And so in order to do that, we want to check in frequently to see how that's working for them. So thanks for saying that. We work hard at that.
You can tell. And 4,000 people. Oh my gosh. That's something. Yeah. So can you might have addressed this, but it would have slipped my mind, but have you been training? Have you gotten to the point where you are training the hydrotechs now?
Yes.
Really?
And so it's what we're doing right now is we develop the modules of Comet, have to train the trainer, and then people who at the trainer taken those modules out and are using them with their programs. We would eventually like to have a traveling training team to support those efforts, but that just hasn't happened yet. That's hopefully a plan for the future. We'll do that, but they are being used, and so like, people are happy with them and learning from them. So those pretty much started being used when they were still in beta testing, because people were so excited to have them.
Yeah. I love the idea too of making, close relationships with different schools that are near the water centers across the country, just to kind of create those relationships and create a funnel where you can have new graduates then walk right into potential jobs.
Yeah, we're really hoping that like these efforts will, support USGS in that capacity. That's been mentioned. They wanted to figure out ways to recruit people from the area, recruit people who would be interested in, serving the mission of USGS. And we thought that was a great avenue. And so, yeah, that's something we're excited about also.
Great, excellent. I don't know that we have any questions, so I'm just going to run through a few things here. If you guys don't mind, if you could put up so Julie, people can reach out to you whenever, if they have any further questions or anything like that. But I would just like to thank you and everyone else. Thank you so much, Julie. I didn't even complete my sentence. You already knew what I wanted. I would like to thank you all for coming to the UCAR.CPAESS Discovery Seminar, and remind you to go to our website to find out about future talks at cpaess.ucar.edu. And here you will also be able to find a link to this talk after it's uploaded onto YouTube, which will happen within a week. And Julie, our sincere thanks to you for sharing your important work with us. And thank you also to Brett Batterman of the UCAR Multimedia Services for his invaluable assistance making this all happen. And I hope to see all of you for our next CPAESS Discovery Seminar on Wednesday, November 15th. Good afternoon, everyone.